name is Chris James, and I'm an MSW student here at WKU, and Social Work 695 is my final elective I have to complete before graduation. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about one of my hobbies, which is detailing vehicles, and how that relates to some principles of social work leadership. In my discussion today, I'm going to cover three main points. One being strategic planning, the next will be situational leadership, or adapting your style to particular situations, and the third being problem solving or critical thinking when problems arise. So the first topic we're going to talk about is strategic planning. As most of us know, it's important to have a plan or an idea of what we hope to accomplish before we start something. If we look back in the history of civil rights in our country, we can see that effective leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., he had a dream, he had a vision of what he hoped to accomplish, and he didn't just go out and start doing things. He had a dream of what he hoped to accomplish, and then he developed a plan from that. Another example would be Abraham Lincoln and abolishing slavery in this country. He didn't just go out and free all the slaves. He had to develop a plan and get key players on his side before he could go out and achieve his goal. And so you have to develop a plan based on your vision. And with detailing a vehicle, it's very similar. You can't just take a vehicle that you've been driving for 6 or 8 months on the road every day and jump right into waxing it. There's steps you have to take before you can wax it in order to achieve the best results. So, first you have to wash the vehicle. You have to find a cool, dry place in the shade, preferably, so the sun's not beating down on the vehicle, and you have to wash it. And typically what I like to do is start with the wheels and tires and fender wells, washing all the thicker dirt and grime off the wheels and tires, and then along the bottom of the vehicle, because that's where most of the dirt is going to be. All the stuff that you pick up off the road and all that will be down along the bottom. So if you start with that area, once you get all 4 wheels and tires done, you can switch your water and get clean water and soap to start with the actual painted surfaces of the vehicle. So then, moving on, you start with the top and work your way down, then go on both sides, making sure to get everything that's painted you want to get washed. So, like I say, start with the top, go down both sides, and just do a little piece at a time. You have to plan for the soap drying, or time constraints and that sort of thing. So you wash like a fender and a door, and then you'll rinse it, and then move to the next section. And then after you've washed and rinsed the entire vehicle, you want to move to drying it, and you want to use a chamois or an absorbent towel, and making sure to get the entire vehicle dry. You want to make sure that all of the cracks and crevices inside the doors, around the mirrors and moldings are also dry, because water holds in there and you don't want that to leak out whenever you're waxing it. So dry it with a towel, and then let it set in the shade for 2 or 3 hours, just in case there's any excess water that will run out before you wax it. Then once the vehicle's set, it's completely dry, you want to move to waxing it. And my recommendation on waxing the vehicle would be to start with the top and put a coat of wax on the entire vehicle. It'll probably take you about an hour to 2 hours, depending on the size of the vehicle. And put the wax on, and then let it sit and dry to a haze. And then after that wax is dried, you want to go back with a clean towel, and you'll probably need 2 or 3 in order to get all the wax off. And you'll start wherever you started waxing is where you'll start taking it off. So if you started on the top, you'll start taking the wax off on the top. And you make sure you get the entire vehicle, again, making sure that each of the cracks and crevices that you got wax in, you get it out so it doesn't dry and remain white. So the next main topic we're going to cover is situational leadership, or adapting your leadership style to the particular situation that you're working with. After doing my leadership interview for this class with a social work leader in the Bowling Green community, I learned the importance of situational leadership and being able to be flexible with your leadership style. And this is important for two different reasons. One is different people work well under different leadership styles. So you may have some people on your team who work well with a very directive leader and task manager who supervises them every step of the way. And then you may have others on the team who prefer a more laissez-faire leader, or someone who is not as directive and kind of takes the back seat role. So you have to be able to adapt your style to work well with each team member and not just have one style that, you know, some members don't work well in. The second reason is you have to look at each person's strengths. Each team member can do something particularly well, and this comes fairly natural for social workers because we operate on a strengths-based perspective when working with clients and other people. We always look for what people do well first. You know, that's our basis for practice. So we have to look at what each team member does well, and then as a leader be able to plug in their talents where they fit. So we don't want somebody who isn't good in a particular area in that area if it's going to hinder the group's progress towards its goals. And this idea of situational leadership, or adapting your leadership style, also applies directly to detailing a vehicle. First, you know, if it's a small car or a vehicle that's not driven every day, you can expect that it will take less time to complete the project than it would if it's an SUV or a truck that's driven on a daily basis. So you have to adapt your time schedule to the type of vehicle you have. Second, you have to know what supplies you have and how each one of them is used, and you have to be able to use them appropriately in order to reach the goals. This is similar to if you can imagine each one of these supplies being a team member on your group. So, you know, with detailing a vehicle, you have different brushes. Your stiff bristled brush will be used for the tires, but you wouldn't want to use this on the paint because it would scratch it. And then you have a softer brush that would be better for painted surfaces or the wheels, because it still cuts the dirt and grime, but it does not scratch the paint. You also have your washing materials. You know, you have a sponge or a mitt that holds a lot of soap and water, and you know, it's good for washing the exterior of the vehicle. And then you have your bug sponge, or bug scratcher, as some people would call it, to get stuff off the front end or along the lower parts of the vehicle that's stuck or more difficult to remove. After you wash the vehicle, you know, we talked about being able to dry the vehicle. You want to use a chamois or an absorbent cloth to dry the water off. You wouldn't want to use your chamois to wash the vehicle, and just as you wouldn't want to use your mitt to try and dry the vehicle. So each item plays a particular role. After you get done washing, you know, you'll move to waxing, and there's different types of wax for different vehicles. If your vehicle has a lot of haze or swirl marks or fine scratches in the paint, you would want to use a swirl and haze remover to help cut that out before putting the final coat of wax on. if you have a vehicle that's not driven every day or the paint's in really good shape, you can start with the finishing wax and you'll end up with a good shine. And different people prefer different types of waxes. You can have liquid or a paste form, but you can see that each item plays a key role in getting to the finished product, just as each person on your team plays a key role in reaching your goals. Okay, last one. The third and final leadership concept that I'm going to share with you today is problem solving or critical thinking when things don't go as we planned. And as social workers, we know in this field, rarely do things go the way we had them planned from start to finish. There's always going to be something that comes up that kind of throws us off course. So as good leaders, we have to be able to work with these problems and overcome barriers in our practice. For instance, if our plan is hinging on a particular law or policy being passed, or receiving a certain grant or a certain set of funds for a project that we're working on, and that doesn't happen, we have to be able to be proactive and come up with creative ways to overcome these barriers in order to still achieve our goals, but maybe not the way we had originally planned. In social work, this often involves working with outside resources or professionals in other fields that specialize in a certain area that may be of assistance to whatever project it is we're working on. So with detailing a vehicle, you also have to be able to adapt to problems, and whenever you may be wanting to detail your vehicle but you have a bunch of road tar or a bunch of bugs stuck on the front end, and you think, well, there's no way I can get this off, you have to come up with creative ways to make that easier and get to your end result. For instance, when I first started detailing vehicles, I had no clue how to get road tar off of the bottom panels of the vehicle. I tried everything I knew. So, whenever I realized I couldn't do it, I went to an outside source, which was my grandpa, and he said, well, try WD-40, because it's a natural compound, and it won't hurt the paint, but it will cut the grease and tar off of your car. So, I tried that, and it worked. So, that's, using something that you likely have around your house or in your shop, and using it for something that you didn't even realize it could be used for. So coming up with creative solutions, with bugs or other stuff on the front end that you can't get off with just your regular soap and water, you may want to use some Dawn dish soap, which will cut more than car wash will. Or you can use what I've found is cleaner and degreaser and dilute it down, and then spray it on the bugs or the bumpers, wherever the problem areas are, and that will help loosen up the bugs and grime. So whenever you do wash it with the regular soap, it's easier to cut those things off. So you have to remember that whenever things don't go as planned, or whenever your strategic plan is going good and then a barrier pops up, you have to embrace that barrier as a challenge rather than be defeated by it. So, in conclusion, I hope you have learned a few things about good social work leadership styles, and also how to detail a vehicle through my discussions and explanation. To recap, the three main points that I covered today were developing a strategic plan to meet your goals, adapting your leadership style to use your team members and your resources to the best of their abilities, and third was thinking outside of the box whenever problems arise and things don't go exactly as you had them planned. So that is all that I have for you today. I thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the